So let's move on to talk a little bit about ICD-10 testing and what that process looks like. We are, really close to the deadline at this point. We're within 30 days. So I'm just going to be honest that testing has been open for 2 years now, and your ability to fully test may be very limited. But it's still important to visit, and it's super important to know prior to October 1st whether your claims are going to at least be accepted with the codes that are on them. So there is really a 4-step process to that. You need to make sure that your practice management system is ready. Then you need to check to see which payers are still offering testing or who you can test with, or even just if you can simply just test with your clearinghouse. Most payers have offered testing, obviously, throughout these last 2 years. Some payers did select just a select group of physicians to test with, so they may not even allow you to test with them, but most clearinghouses, even if you can't test directly with the payers, will allow you to at least test directly with the clearinghouse to make sure that they're at least getting the ICD-10 data sent over properly on the claim. So you need to check and see who is available to test with, or check with your clearinghouse to see what options you have at this point. And then we'd highly encourage you to submit test claims, and then obviously monitor the results on that so you can make adjustments in your practice as necessary. This has been a big issue that's come up recently as people have been doing their testing, and that is you need, part of that first step was to make sure that your system is ready. Everything I showed you in Medisoft as far as Medisoft system setup is going to be required for you, but then beyond that you also need to verify the method that you're using to send claims to the clearinghouse. Recently we've had calls from people that are actually still somehow submitting on a print image format. So I do want to kind of touch on that for just a minute here. Back in January of 2012, HIPAA passed the requirement or implemented the requirement that anything past that, as of that date, needed to be submitted in the ANSI 5010 format. So probably many of you remember that transition back in 2012 and went through the process of getting ready and are totally fine and already sending your claims in the 5010 format. Medisoft includes the capability to submit ANSI 5010 directly from the program. So that's how we're compliant with that rule, is you don't have to rely on anybody else. You can actually submit ANSI 5010 claims directly from the program, whether you want to go directly to a payer or to a clearinghouse that's accepting that. Now, prior to all this time, really the legacy way to submit claims before even any of the ANSI formats was to submit what they call the print image, and then the clearinghouse would basically take that and convert it. So most clearinghouses discontinued supporting print image when the new claim form was released last year. So before April 1st of 2014, we had a slew of people that were still using print image format that went through the process of that got letters from their clearinghouses saying, hey, we're no longer supporting it, and they went through the process of updating their system to start sending claims in the ANSI 5010 format that's included in your program. So we are finding, though, that there are a handful of clearinghouses that might have still been accepting print image formats. But it's important for you to know that the print image file, basically what a print image is it's basically submitting a file that is the claim form, and then the clearinghouse is mapping to that to the different fields on the claim form, and then they're interpreting that or transmitting it, converting it to ANSI 5010 and sending it out for you. The claim form for the CMS 11 file that's used in Medisoft in order to create that print image was never changed to accommodate the new claim form that went into effect last year. So if you are still using CMS11.exe to send your claims, then you are in effect sending the old claim form. That claim form was never touched or changed to update for the new fields, nor was it ever touched or changed to pull the ICD-10 codes onto the form. So remember, prior to version 19, we didn't even have the ability to know. We just had that internal code, and the diagnosis code setup was different. So we couldn't identify that this field is an ICD-9 code and this field is an ICD-10 code. So the program has never, that claim form has never been updated to look at the ICD-10 field in your diagnosis code setup to pull the ICD-10 code. So it might have been possible for you to still be submitting ICD-9 codes and to get those processed, but we are getting, we have had a handful of people again call to say that as they're doing their testing, things are failing in their testing even though they've got all their Medisoft set up properly. And what we're finding is that they're somehow still sitting on that old print image format. So it's important for you to figure that out and figure out quick, because you do not want to be at the end of the line when October 1st comes, both at your clearinghouse at the end of the line and with your vendors or your payers or anything else. You do not want to be at the end of the line to get things updated or to contact your clearinghouse or to contact payers or to be getting your claims denied. You want to know that as soon as possible so that you can make the necessary changes to make sure your claims are still going to be sent through and processed with the ICD-10 codes on it. So if you are still using print image format to submit claims, please contact your clearinghouse immediately. You will most likely need to convert off of print image to send to them in the ANSI 5010 format, which is going to require some coordination with the clearinghouse because they need to know that you're switching their format off of print image. And in addition to that, even though Medisoft includes the software to send your to send in the ANSI 5010 format, like there's no additional software you have to buy, you do have to configure your software, which is called Revenue Management. It's the module inside of Medisoft that will send it that way. You do have to configure that software with specific settings for the either the payer that you're sending to, if you're sending directly, or to the clearinghouse that you're sending to, so that they're getting the proper information on their side. So I know I probably spent a lot of time on that screen, but it's such an important and critical piece to understand as you're getting ready for sending your claims. So the next thing that you're going to need to do is once you know that Medisoft is set up properly, you know you're sending it in the ANSI 5010 format, or that you're sending it in the format that your clearinghouse is going to accept, then you're ready to submit your test claim. So the way that you're going to do that is you're going to need to edit your payers. So typically you're going to choose a payer to test for, and you'll need to go in and edit your payer to temporarily change the effective date. Then you'll need to put revenue management, which is the module that I was referring to that allows you to send your claims in that ANSI 5010 format. You'll need to put revenue management in test mode, and then you'll enter in some of your test claims, and you're going to submit claims as you normally would through revenue management. And then once those test claims are processed or you've sent them out, then you're going to need to go back and undo that process. You'll need to go back into revenue management, take it out of test mode, and then go back and change that payer that you were sending the test claims for, change that effective date back to the October 1st, 2015 date for your payers. So I'm going to pause for a moment because I know I did a lot of talking and just using text, and I want to show you in the program to make it a little bit easier for you. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to identify whether or not you're sending a print image format to your payers or not, or to your clearinghouse. So if you go into claim management right now, if you are processing your claims through claim management by doing print send, and you're choosing electronic right here, when you choose your EMC receiver, it should show you which program file that you are using. But if you are using this method at all to send electronically, you'll notice that when I hit OK, it is going to tell me that I am using a print claim format, so print claim forms, okay? And it may even tell you that you're using CMS 11 up here. So if you're using this method, this is the method that I'm referring to that is not supporting ICD-10. This is not going to produce your ICD-10 claims, or this will not produce ICD-10 codes on your claim for you. It's essentially just producing that old claim form. It was never updated for ICD-10. All right. What is included again in your system, though, is if you go to your activities menu and go to revenue management is the module that will send your claims electronically in the ANSI 5010 format right from the software. And it's really going to be, you know, there's so many advantages that you'll find by using revenue management. There's claim scrubbing that happens before claims even leave the system, and there is ERA posting, so we can read ERA files back and actually post them to reduce your posting time, things like that. So there really are, and even on the support side, it's a lot easier for us to support you when you're sending an ANSI 5010, because we can get really specific if there's a problem to understand like which loop and segment was denied and know exactly how to help you and how to fix it. So it is really the standard that you should be using. And just again to point out, Medisoft does not support print image format, so we're not going to be able to help you when it comes to ICD-10 if you're still trying to use print image. So now that I'm in revenue management, I'm going to show you how to put revenue management in test mode. So if you go up to your configure menu and then you go down to your receivers here, you'll see you're going to find the receiver that you're using to send your claims. Like if you're using Relay Health as our recommended clearinghouse of choice, because we can actually support you end-to-end on it. It's the only one that we can. So it's probably our most commonly used one. So you're going to find your receiver, and then you're going to come down to this column called transactions. And when you click on the drop-down for transactions, you'll see that there is a field right here called test mode. So you'll simply check that off and then close out of that, and you'll hit save right here. And now revenue management is now in test mode. So any claims that you have ready to send are going to be sent in that test mode. And then once you've set those claims, you're going to go back into the receivers and hit that drop down and take it out of test mode so that you can send all your other claims. So, and also just as a reminder, you do want to make sure that the transactions that you enter in those test claims for, so let's just say that I'm going to enter in test claims that have dates of service as September 4th on there, and I'm going to send those test claims to Aetna. I would want to come into Aetna, and I would want to change my options and codes temporarily for Aetna to September 4th, 2015, so that I could send those test claims out and it would pull the ICD-10 codes as opposed to the ICD-9 codes on there. So just keep that in mind. Those are really the only steps you need to take in order to produce the test files, is to make sure that you have an effective date that is going to allow the dates of service that you enter to pull the ICD-10 codes on it. Put revenue management in test mode, and then it will allow you to produce and send the file for your test claims, and then go back and reverse that out. Okay. One other little feature that I did not point out to you that is available to you to help you through this transition is when you are in transaction entry, There are some new features that as you're trying to manage, your different payers and which ones are 9 and which ones are 10 and which dates of service you're on and what codes it should be sending, the system is going to help you with that. Because if I come down here, let's just say I'm actually going to post for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I'm going to enter in transaction for today. If you're not already familiar, when you're in the diagnosis field, if you hit F6 on your keyboard, that will actually give you, it'll bring up your search window to search for your code. So if I happen to be past the effective date and I happen to choose one of my old codes out of my system to put it in, you'll see that it's going to highlight that field in red for me. So it's giving me what we call an diagnosis warning. So it's looking at my insurance and it's looking at the effective date for my insurance and it's telling me, hey, we have a problem here because, I need to be pulling, in this case, an ICD-10 code, and you have not entered in a code that has a mapped ICD-10 code to it. So if you ignore that warning, when I try to save that transaction, it will tell you again that, hey, you are using a diagnosis code that is not valid for the insurance that you're submitting to, and it will ask you if you still want to continue or not. If I don't want to continue, I can easily just edit that diagnosis right there and add the ICD-10 code if I want to add it in there, or I could just switch the diagnosis code to a valid code so it's not highlighted in red. But I'm going to skip all that and just say, hey, I do want to go ahead and save that transaction anyway. We are going to give you one more warning. Well, actually, you're not going to be able to send your claim out. So if I come into claim management at this point and I create my claim in here, you'll see that that claim did create. However, there's a new status in claim management, which is this one is not ready to send. It has a diagnosis error on it. If I go to my transactions tab, it will actually have highlighted in red the diagnosis that is causing the problem, so you could go and correct that. So did just want to point that out, that that is available. So even as you're sending your test claims, if you were to enter a date of service and you hadn't changed your effective date, you would still get those error messages to show you that, hey, your test claim isn't set up properly for it to pull the ICD-10 right now. All right, so that is the little scenario on submitting your test claims to your payers. Just to give you a little bit more information about what testing is available. Again, so close to deadline, you may be really limited in what you can still do. But these are the different types of testing that are typically going to be available to you, and these are the ones that Relay Health offers. The first one is going to be validation testing. The second one is true end-to-end testing. And the third one is self-supported payer testing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means. Validation testing simply means that you're going to be able to submit a claim to the clearinghouse, and they're going to perform a validation test to simply say, yes, we got it. It's, the format is proper. We can see the ICD-10 code on it, and we should be able, we will be able to forward this on to the payer. So it's really the minimal testing that you can do just to confirm that, hey, they can at least get my ICD-10 codes. If that's your only option left at this point, I would still encourage you to do it because, again, some of those other things that you don't want to find out after October 1st is, hey, I'm sending in a print image format that's not even sending an ICD-10 code on it, and even if you do have revenue management configured, there is a chance that you have a custom configuration, and if you have a custom configuration, when you upgraded your software, it did not automatically, it will not touch any custom configurations. It only touches the standard configurations to update them for ICD-10. So you may still have to tweak even your revenue management settings in order to get an ICD-10 coded claim properly formatted out to your clearinghouse or payer. So validation testing, even if that's the only option that you have left, it's still very worthwhile your effort to try to do it at this point, just so you can confirm, hey, they can accept my ICD-10 code, and you're not, again, at the end of the line when everything happens on October 1st, finding out that, hey, you have a problem. End-to-end testing, if there are any payers left that are still offering this, this is really your best choice, because this really gives you the detailed information that you would want to know, not just that the clearinghouse can accept it, but end-to-end testing means they actually can forward it to the payer. The payer will look at that claim, and they will actually return a report to you. So all the same reports that you get today under ICD-9, it's going to go end-to-end to test it in ICD-10 to make sure you can get the report back. And most valuable piece of data is if they can return that remittance advice report, where you can actually see not just that they accepted an ICD-10 coded claim, but if you were to submit a claim that was, for procedures that you had to do because of a certain diagnosis, you would actually be able to see what your reimbursement would be on that. So making sure that it was properly coded so that you could get the same reimbursement that you're expected to. So end-to-end testing is really the best testing that you could do if it is still available. Unfortunately, at this point, most payers have closed their end-to-end testing. I know Medicare is no longer accepting any end-to-end testing. They're only offering that validation or acknowledgement testing at this point. But if it is available, if you see any payers still that are offering it, then I would highly encourage you to try to do that if they're still time. And then the last option is self-supported testing. This means that some payers were not allowing testing through the clearinghouses. You had to go directly to the payer through their portal on-site, or sorry, online. So you'd have to create a file, and then instead of sending it through your normal channels like you would electronically, you had to load that file up to their site. So again, even this at this point may be limited because we're so close to the deadline. A lot of the testing window has been closed, but that is another option that may still be available to you. All right, and then the last step in your process, if you are able to still test, is to monitor any results that you get back so that you obviously are aware after you submit your test claims of whether or not there were any issues with it. So thanks again for joining us, and good luck as you make this move to ICD-10.
Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you liked the video and found it helpful. If you did, let us know by giving us a thumbs up by clicking on the like button below. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to write those in the comment section below. And if you want to get more helpful videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks!